The most terrifying aspect of this story isn't that a simple wine cabinet is allegedly haunted. It's that everyone who has owned it has experienced the exact same nightmares, featuring the same demonic hag, despite never speaking to each other about their experiences. Viewer discretion is advised. September 2001 was supposed to be just another day at the estate sale for Kevin Mannis, an experienced antique dealer from Portland, Oregon. He had been in the business for years, with a keen eye for valuable pieces and interesting historical artifacts. Among the items being sold that day was a small wooden wine cabinet, smaller than a case of beer and decorated with two metal plates shaped like grape clusters. It seemed unremarkable enough, just another piece of vintage furniture that might find a home in his antique shop. But as Mannis examined the cabinet more closely, the elderly woman running the estate sale approached him with an unusual warning. The cabinet had belonged to her 103-year-old grandmother, Havila, a Holocaust survivor who had escaped to Spain during World War II and purchased the box there. According to the family, Havila had always kept the cabinet hidden away and had repeatedly warned her children and grandchildren never to open it. She called it a Dybbuk box, claiming it contained a malicious possessing spirit from Jewish folklore. Despite this ominous backstory, Mannis was intrigued rather than deterred. As an antique dealer, he had heard countless stories about supposedly cursed or haunted objects, and he generally dismissed such tales as folklore designed to add mystique to otherwise ordinary items. The cabinet was well-crafted and appeared to be genuinely old, making it potentially valuable regardless of any supernatural claims. He purchased the box and transported it to his antique shop, planning to clean it up and eventually resell it to a collector. What happened next would transform Mannis from a skeptical businessman into a true believer in the supernatural. Within 30 minutes of the cabinet arriving at his shop, while Mannis was running errands, something extraordinary occurred. When he returned, he found his employee in a state of panic, claiming that an invisible presence had gone berserk in the store, cursing loudly, smashing light bulbs, and creating an atmosphere of pure terror. As Mannis investigated the disturbance, he encountered something that defied rational explanation. Walking toward the back of his shop, he stepped into what he could only describe as a wall of scent. The overwhelming smell of jasmine flowers mixed with the acrid odor of cat urine. The boundary of this smell was so precise that he could take one step forward and be completely surrounded by it, then step backward and smell nothing at all. It was as if an invisible barrier contained the odors, creating a supernatural phenomenon that seemed to emanate from the newly acquired cabinet. This was only the beginning of what would become a pattern of increasingly disturbing events. The cabinet seemed to bring with it an aura of misfortune that affected everyone who came into contact with it. Lights would shatter without explanation, electronic equipment would malfunction, and visitors to the shop reported feeling an oppressive presence that made them uncomfortable and eager to leave. Unaware of the full extent of the cabinet's alleged power, Mannis decided to give it to his mother as a birthday gift. The decision would prove to be one he would regret for the rest of his life. Within minutes of receiving the cabinet, his mother suffered a severe stroke that temporarily left her unable to speak. When she finally regained some ability to communicate, she managed to scrawl a terse message, "Hate gift." The timing was so immediate and the message so clear that Mannis was forced to confront the possibility that the cabinet was indeed connected to the misfortunes befalling those around it. Mannis quickly retrieved the cabinet from his mother, but the damage seemed to have been done. His mother never fully recovered from the stroke, and she refused to discuss the cabinet or its effects with him ever again. The guilt and fear that Mannis felt about his mother's condition was compounded by a series of other disasters that seemed to follow in the cabinet's wake. The FBI raided Mannis's shop without explanation, hauling away loads of electronic equipment. Although he eventually got his property back, he never received a satisfactory explanation for the raid. His shop lease was terminated, forcing him to relocate his business. He became a victim of identity theft, losing significant amounts of money and spending months trying to restore his credit and reputation. Each incident, taken individually, could be explained as coincidence or bad luck, but the accumulation of disasters seemed to point to something more sinister. Most disturbing of all were the nightmares that began to plague Manus after acquiring the cabinet. Night after night, he was visited by the same terrifying vision, a demonic hag with wild hair and glowing eyes who would beat him mercilessly while he lay helpless in his bed. The dreams were so vivid and consistent that they began to affect his waking life, leaving him exhausted and fearful of sleep. What he didn't know at the time was that these same nightmares would later afflict every subsequent owner of the cabinet, despite none of them having any knowledge of each other's experiences. By June 2003, Manus had endured enough. Desperate to rid himself of the cabinet and its apparent curse, he decided to sell it on eBay. But with an unusual twist, he included a detailed warning about the object's history and the strange phenomena associated with it. Rather than hiding the cabinet's alleged supernatural properties, he made them the centerpiece of his listing, hoping that full disclosure would protect him from any ethical responsibility for what might happen to the next owner. The listing attracted significant attention, and the cabinet was eventually purchased by a college student named Iosif Nitska for $140. Nitska, perhaps drawn by the mysterious backstory or simply curious about the claims, took possession of the cabinet and soon began experiencing his own series of disturbing phenomena. Like Manus before him, Nitska reported strange odors in his house, the same combination of jasmine and cat urine that had plagued the antique shop. His home was invaded by an inexplicable bug infestation. Electronic devices malfunctioned without cause, and he began seeing what he described as large, vertical, dark blurs in his peripheral vision. The nightmares that had tormented Manus also began to visit Nitska, featuring the same demonic hag that would beat him in his sleep. The consistency of these visions across different owners, who had no contact with each other, would later become one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the cabinet's supernatural nature. Nitska, like Manus before him, eventually decided that the cabinet was too dangerous to keep and put it up for sale on eBay. The next owner was Jason Haxton, a medical museum director and collector of religious artifacts who was intrigued by the cabinet's alleged connection to Jewish mysticism. Haxton approached the purchase with a more scientific mindset, hoping to uncover the truth behind the cabinet's reputation through careful research and analysis. He bought the cabinet in February 2004 for $280, significantly more than previous sales, reflecting the growing notoriety of the object. Haxton's experiences with the cabinet were perhaps the most thoroughly documented of any owner. The day after the cabinet arrived at his office, he woke up with his right eye looking as if it had been poked. Over the following weeks and months, he developed a series of mysterious health problems, including fatigue, a persistent metallic taste in his mouth, constant nasal congestion, and a chronic cough. Most alarmingly, he began coughing up blood, a symptom that had no apparent medical cause. Like previous owners, Haxton also experienced the signature odors of jasmine and cat urine that seemed to emanate from the cabinet. He conducted various experiments, sealing the cabinet in different containers and monitoring it for unusual activity. In several instances, he would seal the cabinet securely, only to return later and find it mysteriously opened, with no explanation for how the seals had been broken. Haxton's research into the cabinet's origins revealed fascinating details about its construction and purpose. Working with Jewish scholars and rabbis, he discovered that the cabinet was designed as a personal prayer box, similar to an Aron HaKodesh or holy closet used to hold Torah scrolls. The Hebrew writing on the cabinet and its content suggested that it had been created by someone seeking spiritual comfort or attempting to focus energy for prayer. However, the specific use of the cabinet, and whether it had been intentionally imbued with a Dybbuk, remained a mystery. Concerned about the cabinet's effects on his health and well-being, Haxton consulted with rabbis who helped him perform a Kabbalistic ceremony designed to reseal whatever spirit might be contained within the box. The ritual seemed to provide some relief from the more severe symptoms, though Haxton continued to treat the cabinet with extreme caution, eventually sealing it in a specially constructed protective ark. In 2016, the cabinet came into the possession of Zach Bagans, host of the paranormal investigation show Ghost Adventures. Bagans acquired the cabinet for his haunted museum in Las Vegas, where it is now displayed as one of the centerpiece attractions. Even in its current location, the cabinet continues to generate reports of strange phenomena, with visitors and staff members experiencing unexplained illnesses, equipment malfunctions, and disturbing encounters. The Dybbuk box has become one of the most famous allegedly haunted objects in the world, inspiring the 2012 horror film The Possession and countless paranormal investigations. While skeptics argue that the reported phenomena can be explained by suggestion, coincidence, and the power of belief, the consistent pattern of experiences across multiple unconnected owners continues to intrigue believers and researchers alike. Whether the cabinet truly contains a malevolent spirit or simply serves as a focal point for psychological phenomena, its story raises profound questions about the nature of belief, the power of suggestion, and the possibility that some objects might indeed carry with them the spiritual energy of their creators and previous owners. The Dybbuk box remains a testament to humanity's enduring fascination with the supernatural and our deep-seated fear of forces beyond our understanding or control. If you found this story as fascinating and chilling as we did, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel with notifications turned on. We explore the most mysterious and unexplained phenomena from around the world, bringing you stories that challenge our understanding of reality. Your support helps us continue investigating these incredible cases. Until next time, remember that some mysteries are better left unsolved.